Hello, everyone. Welcome to VR Verdict, episode 78. I am PJ.
A Wookie.
We're here talking with Dave the Dev.
Yeah, from Defective Penguin Games. Yeah, here
How's
we go.
it going?
Yeah, it's great. It's great, and I'm still just marveling at all of this. This is absolutely fantastic. It's,
I have to do a better job explaining to the audio listeners that we're doing the show in VR live,
In a
streaming
trade
it.
show setting.
Yep, in our own booth. We have a lovely audience here. Hey, Zed.
Yeah.
Regular guy.
Yep.
And
So we're here to talk. Oh, go ahead.
Speaking of the booth, I'd had missed the last couple of recordings. What the hell? Giving us some upgrades. Our table was all crooked before. Now it's all like colorful, and we've got an extra
Every week
chair.
they ask, hey, we can do 2 or 3 things. What do you want to do? And every week they get it done, and it's awesome.
Oh, nice. I mean, it's
Triple pull up next. Sorry, go ahead.
this is it's superb. If someone had told me even 10 years ago that a decade from now you're gonna have not only had the technology to make a virtual reality game, but you're gonna be sat in a VR world with a couple of guys talking about it, I'd have said they were mad. I'd been called in the lunatic asylum. We got a live one. So yeah, it's this is incredible. So yeah.
And
So he's joined. Dave's joining us from Barcelona, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I'm from London originally, but moved to Barcelona a few years back. So
right now for us it's 7 p.m. For you, it's what, 2 a.m.
2 a.m. Yeah.
Right.
So there might be a couple of yawns, or but yeah, it's I figured if this is the time you normally do it, then yeah, we may as well stick to that,
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
you don't have to do that. We can screw our schedules up for a little bit.
I'm a game developer. My schedule's already screwed up. It's Sleep's something that happens to other people. So yeah.
Feel like it's a disaster.
So we're here to talk about your game Warchasm. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a fairly casual arcade shooter. It's got a few nice touches in it. The idea is, if you imagine the minecart chase from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and then you mix that with, but you take Indiana Jones out and put Han Solo in instead. That's kind of the game. You're stuck in this minecart, tearing through these chasms, caves, volcanoes, things like that, and the whole time there's a whole bunch of things that you need to avoid. You've got gaps in the track where you need to be tilting the cart over it. There's all sorts of booby traps and things that come out, and of course the whole time an army of robots trying to take you down. So but yeah, I mean it's a real sort of arcade shooter. It's a bullet hell title, really. So yeah, but but I'm very proud of it. It wasn't the first game I started building. It was the third in the end. But the first two, I made all the classic mistakes. The first was going to be some great RPG. The same mistake that every green naive dev makes when they first step into this arena. I actually got stunningly far with that. I'd built entire cathedrals and villages and things like that, but it soon became apparent, there's no way being one person that this is going to pan out. And then there was a second title that was more sort of puzzle based, and that was set sort of in a sort of Victorian setting, but even that, it became apparent that as one person working alone, you're just not going to pull it off. So
Uh-oh.
I guess by the Indiana Jones thing, I ended up on this. Yeah. So yeah, and
Nice.
and yeah, it took. I gave myself a year to do it. And yeah, at the end of that year, I had the PC, the PC VR version ready to go. So released that on Steam June last year.
I gotta tell you shared a build of the PC version, and I loved it. I don't just say things because people are here. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. And then you're like, hey, here's the quest build. It's even better. I'm like, how can it be better than the PC build? But you were right, man. Like,
Yeah, well,
I don't know
that's
how
the
you
thing.
did.
I mean, it's a lot of late nights, a lot of kicking myself because I made so many mistakes, just so many mistakes. It was unbelievable. To the point where if somebody wrote down a list of things that you should not do if you want to make an Oculus Quest game, it was like I took that and used it as a game design manual. It was literally, I had just done all of them. I had dynamic lights in there, which were a no-no. I had everything spawn in. Nothing actually existed in the level, which is a no-no. Everything's running on tick, which means it's every single thing in the game is updating every frame, and it's 90 frames a second in VR or 72 on the Quest. So that was another no-no. There was all these sort of lighting effects and particles and GPU, you know, everything's running on the GPU. And it was literally, I did not get a single thing right. So so when it comes to doing the Quest port, and this is, I think, the reason it's actually taken a year pretty much to the day to get the port done. I had to properly go right back to the drawing board with it. It was like, okay, we can't do things like this. We can't have everything spawning. So now everything exists all the time in the level. You just can't see it. And that's pulled in. Things aren't running on tick. They're only running, you know, every frame for the few frames that they're showing up in front of the player. Had to get rid of some things like the glows and the post effects. That was a shame, but the Quest just can't do it. It's you're already rendering everything twice, and then doing the post effects, you've got to do another pass on top of that. So it was it was just too much.
So
But the
I have
other
a
thing was
question on that,
there's
if you don't mind.
like in this scene. Yeah, go on.
Sorry,
Yeah, no,
the
go
lag
for
is
it.
a little different. So when you, and I haven't asked any other devs this, I always mean to, but I think of it later. So you build like the PC version of the game, you put a year into it. How hard is it to say, okay, I got to start from scratch for this Quest port someday? How do you make yourself excited about getting that done? That's got to be something.
Well, I mean, you know, whenever you do anything creative, you've got to have a passion for it. Otherwise, nothing would get made. You know, it's with this in particular. Obviously, I only started my sort of whole game dev thing. I started. I mean, I've been studying Unreal Engine for about 4 years now, tops, and 2 of that has been spent working on Warchasm. So to be honest, I mean, for me, it was more of a slog because, as I said, I made every mistake in the book in terms of what I should have done for the Quest version. I'm sure that studios that have got a bit more experience than I had wouldn't be making those mistakes. You know, they'd probably be building the two in tandem and working out what they can do on the Quest and what's going to be different with the PC version. And that would have made my life a lot easier. But you know, you don't know what you don't know. You know, when you're going into something like this brand new, it's you're completely unaware of what all of those pitfalls are. And as much as the internet is full of thousands of tutorials, you know, people showing you everything, it's the little things that trip you up. You know, that things like simply using lights. Yeah, I mean, we have, like, for instance, this bit that we're watching here, that this whole volcano level, in fact, throughout the entire game, there's not, on the Quest version, there's not actually a single light in the entire game. The whole thing's done, all the textures are done using the emissive channel. So what you'd normally use to sort of like show where your glows are and things like that, this is actually, everything you're seeing is running on that channel. And because there's no lights, you know, all the lighting that you do have needs to be sort of baked in, so it just becomes part of this one texture. But then there's no shadows here. I had to go in and hand paint all of the shadows, and then all the sort of glows where you've got lights and things, all the bits that are lit on the wall, all of that then had to be hand painted in. So it was, it really was an astonishing amount of work. Where you know, and like you say, you know, how do you keep going? Because there was a moment where I looked at it and I just thought, I'm essentially remaking this game now. Yeah. It's not a case of you know, just throw it on the Quest, see what works, see what doesn't. It's you know, and as the gravity of that dawned on me, it's it just suddenly became a it was difficult to to keep myself motivated. But the one thing I will say is in the year that I'd spent developing Warchasm, I'd learned so much. I was a much better developer after the experience of building the PC version, that when I went back and redid it, rather than see it as it's another year's worth of work, I saw it as an opportunity to fix a lot of the things that were wrong, a lot of the things that didn't work in the PC version. And yeah, I personally, I don't know if you'd agree, but I personally think I think now the Quest version looks a lot better than the PC version did. The art's more coherent, the flow of the game. Yeah, which sounds crazy, but that year of working on the PC version just made all the difference in my actual abilities. And I tell you, some of the things, going back and looking at the because I've been using the you have a visual scripting language inside of Unreal Engine. It's all this sort of node based, plug this into this, that into that kind of thing. And going back and looking at it, there were moments where I was just like, what the hell was I thinking? Looking at some of the ways I've done these things. It was like, Christ,
I was going to say
it was like, was I drunk when I did this? It's
right.
Yeah,
I've had
go ahead.
Before, nothing in the game industry, but I've had projects before where somebody deletes everything, and you're like, oh fuck. And then when you go back the second time, you're like 3 times as fast.
Yeah.
You get it better. And if you have your template to look at, like that, you will point at it and be like, or you go back to your tinkerings from like a year prior and like, the fuck is this? Junior ass shit. So
exactly, and it can be an opportunity. Like you say, it can be an opportunity to rethink things and get things done a little better. I mean, years ago, I was working on before I did this, I worked in the music industry for a fairly long time, and I was working on an album for a band, and I had a virus just rip into one of my hard drives, completely killed it, killed like the boot sector. I managed to get into the drive and get all of the audio files that we'd recorded off of it, but none of the but couldn't get any of the production or any of the actual sort of song files. So I had to redo everything. But like you say, that second go, the album had taken me 3 months. I was working on it. When I redid it, it took about 2.5 weeks, and yeah, it came out a lot better. So sometimes these things, these things that they're sent to test us, aren't they? And yeah, it's an opportunity to sort of rework things and.
I was going to agree because I've gone to 2 different styles of art school, and right now I'm trying to write a book just for fun, and it's like the first pass is never it. When I went to a graphic design degree, I draw like 100 thumbnails, and the first thumbnail is never like the logo that your quote unquote customer is ever going to want, and just writing stuff for like a fantasy book just because it's why not. Yeah. I write a paragraph for like a chapter and I just like dump it, come back to it. And sometimes if I get stuck, I go reread that last chapter I wrote and I'm like, that is the corniest bullshit I have ever read. And then you have to redo it. Like you just get used to redoing your shit because your first shot is never going to be good. So.
No, it's it's yeah, and it's so amazing as well how engrossed and wrapped up you get in the creative process when you're doing these things. Like using the music thing again as an example. It's like the best song you have is the one you're working on right there in the moment. You're like, damn, this is brilliant, and then you'll forget about it and you'll go back and you'll listen to it a couple of months later, having completely forgotten you even wrote it, and you'll listen to it and you're like, you're checking the date on it. Did I do this 3 months ago, or did I do this when I was 9? This is appalling. Again, what was I thinking? And you get the odd gem where you go back to something and you think, why the hell didn't I carry on with that? That's fantastic. It's
definitely save all those things.
The other trailer. Oh yeah. I mean, it's great to have them. I've had a couple of accidents where I deleted. That's on me. I accidentally deleted a whole bunch of songs, like years worth of songs that I'd been working on. yeah, and that, yeah, that was heartbreaking. But normally, always an idea to hang on to these things. I mean, there are, for instance, on like the Warchasm soundtrack, there are some, just a few bars or a few riffs or a few licks or something in there, or little orchestral pieces or little string pieces, and some of them I can think back to. I wrote that 20 years ago. That was part of another song that I never did anything with, and it ended up being used on a video game that I made 2 decades later. So keep your work for sure, because you never know.
Yeah, and I dig the music. I don't know if that was you or if you hired that out, but I like it.
No, that was that was me. I had a sound guy who is a friend of mine here in Barcelona, and he'd found himself out of work, and he heard that I was making a game. So he said, let me do the sound on the game. I don't want any cash for it. I just want to put it on my CV. And I'd already started on the sound. I'd done, I don't know, I guess about 10-15% of it. But yeah, he's a good guy, and it turned out to be a really good sound designer. So I got him to do that. But he did ask if he could do the music as well. And I had to say no. It's like, no. I know exactly how I want the soundtrack to this game to be, sort of thing. So. So I kept that for myself. I mean, everything you see there, apart from the sound design done by that guy, I mean, he turned out to be a great sound designer, a fellow named David Maria.
Nice.
Yeah, apart from his work on the sound and a few of the textures, like the monowheel behind us there, that was, I had a similar situation with my girlfriend where she found herself out of work. So I sort of trained her up in ZBrush and Substance Painter and what have you, and she ended up doing a few of the textures. But everything else in the game was it's proper sort of solo dev thing,
Yeah.
So yeah.
You want to take this moment to
I mean,
do some show and tell with the models in here and
Yeah, if you like. Let's turn
we have to move
around.
our camera real quick. 1 second.
All right. So yeah, this as I was saying when we were chatting earlier, this is the mono wheel. This is something that sort of shows up, I think, when you get to the second planet, and it's sort of bouncing around the tracks, shooting at you. I don't really do much in the way of concept art when I design things, but what I do is I sit there, I just go off in my own head and I just think about things over and over and over until it's so clear in my head that when I sit down and open up Maya and I start modeling and that, they tend to come together pretty quickly. And this is probably the best example of that. I could see this so clearly in my head when when I sat down. It took a couple of hours to model it. I then had to do like the UV unwrap and that, and my partner textured it with her newfound skills. So yeah, but it's a great little model. I just really like the lines on it. I like the design of it. It's probably comes from watching too much Star Wars, but I love it.
Hey.
So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I was playing the game
and then we
today,
got
and I met this for the first time today, and I was like, "Oh, sweet!" And then it shot at me. I had to kill it.
Yeah, and it really opens fire as well. It's it really goes for it with those with those cannons. I started sort of trying to mix it up a bit later in the game where you have sort of two of these land on the tracks at the same time, and they're sort of bouncing. You like swapping sides sort of thing. So it's a lot harder to sort of take them out, and it's a nice little touch. But this is probably my fave model from the game, to be honest. It's just the one that was so clear in my head, and it come together so well. So that was definitely my favorite. Okay, and then over this side, if we have a look at this, if you join me over here, we've got this. This is really like indicative of really your enemies throughout the game. Is there's just lots and lots of these different drones flying around. These are the ones that are shooting at you the most. You have these red ones that are just cannon fodder. They're just there for you to take out, sort of thing. That's what you encounter in the first stage. It's only them, and they hardly shoot at you. But the moment these appear, they start really chucking out the lasers, and that's when the game starts to become the bullet hell thing that I envisioned it to be. Oh yeah, and then and then there is another type that comes after this that's just really armored. They're like just these big sort of blue sort of tanks that are that are really there from a game design perspective. They're a lot harder to kill. They don't necessarily shoot anymore, or or do much more damage, but they take your time because you have to shoot them so many times, and the whole time you're shooting these sort of big armored blue drones, these swines are appearing and sort of like trying to take you out. So it worked really well having these sort of these 3 levels of drones: your cannon fodders, your shooters, and your sort of tanks, But yeah, and then finally over here, we've got this, which is just a big old thing that comes lumbering along the tracks at various different speeds, and as all you can do is duck under it. There's no taking this one out. So, but yeah, but it's it is great when this appears. It's we got these sort of like bits in the game where you're made to look away, and then this will come tearing down the track towards you as you look back.
Yeah.
There's these bits where you'll need to be facing to the right to take out another vehicle, and then when you look back, you realise you're going to get hit in the head with one of these skips. So, not exactly a jump scare, but well, yeah, I guess it is. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? That jump scare thing.
Squat scare?
But yeah, so that's yeah.
You're supposed to duck under it? Is that a squat scare?
So yeah, that's
Yep.
it. Yeah, that's it. So this is coming at you from here. You're sort of stood here, and obviously you're on your minecart, so you need to sort of duck under it here. And the first time you see it, it's going the same direction as you, so it's just ambling along. So you just got to get down low and wait until you've cleared it. And then there's various other versions of it as you progress through the game, where it comes tearing out of the shadows sort of faster and faster each time. Okay. But it's yeah, and again, all the textures on it had to be baked. I exported these out at 1024, which is what was sort of recommended for creating the GLB files. It's actually a little higher res than this in game, but yeah,
Sure.
But you can sort of see the model for what it is. Yeah,
And
that little weird sort of poly coming.
it's
off there.
kind of. Would you say this is twice the scale as it is in the game? But in the game, it does feel huge when it comes down at you.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I don't know. I'd say this is probably about it, to be honest. I mean, this is maybe a tiny bit bigger, but thinking if I sort of stand up now, no, it is a fair bit bigger, because I could almost stand under that now. So yeah, it's probably about this is probably about a third bigger than it appears in game.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's but yeah, you're right. It's not the biggest thing in the game. I can tell you that. There's there's one thing in particular that absolutely puts this to shame. There's a sort of mothership, as it were, that you encounter, which is just huge. I mean, it is fantastically big, and it was sort of designed, the mothership sort of thing I'm talking about now. You remember the old sort of 2D shooters that you'd play in the arcade, like R-Type and stuff like that you played back in the late 80s or what have you.
Like Defender.
And the way that's it. And then the enemy, the ship itself, would kind of become the level where first of all you'd be at the front of it, and then it would sort of go up, and you'd be under it, and then it would go back, and then you'd have to go over the top, and then you'd sort of be around the back of it. I really liked that. It's something that I always really loved, those epic moments in those 2D games. So when I was sort of putting Warchasm together, I really wanted to do just one big ship, So there is this section in the game where you have where you have this sort of like a real sort of like like the opening of A New Hope, where the sort of Star Destroyer comes out over the top of you, sort of thing. There's a moment like that where the ship is just coming out, and it just goes on and on and on, sort of thing.
Nice.
And then eventually you sort of get to the back of it, and then there's a bunch of droids standing on it that you've got to take out, and then there's cannons coming out, and it's firing missiles at you, and the whole time it's moving around, and there's doors opening on it, and there's more droids, and then every now and again it will move away, and you have like these drones, like those fellas over there, and what have you, sort of like trying to take you out in between those sections. And I was really happy with it. It really gave me that feeling of playing like R-Type or Defender or one of those sorts of games back in the day. was very stoked with how that came out. I mean, I'm quite old, so I'm quite retro with a lot of my gaming. You know, I
Right
was
there with you.
around at the start, sort of thing. So yeah. Yeah, but that's it. So that's the models I sort of got uploaded for. Well, that Jesse very kindly got uploaded for me. It's but yeah, they're looking good. Yeah, it's very strange seeing them in this environment. You know, so I'm so used to only ever seeing these things inside of Warchasm. It's weird being, having this chat with you guys, and like, oh yeah, it's the skip carrier from my game. It's just sat there. So yeah, parked.
Too bad we can't put it on the train track and have it rolling or something fun.
It would be fantastic. I mean, it's great the way it sort of comes bowling out of the shadows and that. So yeah, no, very chuffed with it. So yeah, should we go and have a look at the video that's running?
Sure.
See if there's anything in there that let's see if this tunnel gets any bigger. Yeah, so here, I mean, if you look at the size of this, you can sort of work out how big that skip carrier can actually be, because it's not going to be any bigger than than the roof of the old tunnels here. So yeah, it's it is
get down
great
pretty
seeing.
low then.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
I will tell you that
it's,
this game's a hell of a workout, and I love it because I do Supernatural in VR every day. So it's another game I can use my squats and my lunges and everything, and it works really well. Those doors you have to shoot to
brilliant.
open.
I mean,
they remind me of Contra a lot.
It's
But I want to know.
I've never played Contra, and and I hear people talking about it all the time.
Nice.
It's one of my sins as a gamer. Look at that.
I am curious.
code,
But
though,
yeah,
right?
with the work outfit. Sorry.
The delays kill me.
Oh right.
You say you know the Contra code, right?
Yeah, we got.
out?
Oh right, no. But no, I've never played. Never actually got around to playing it. Also, never played Half-Life or Half-Life 2 actually, which I know is sin, but yeah. But yeah, with what you're saying about the game being a workout, after a year of playtesting something, there isn't really much of a challenge. It's only when I get to these sorts of, this is the second to last level. It's only when I get to these last two levels that I find it any kind of challenge. And as such, I kept, let me backtrack a little bit. As we got towards the end of development, the idea was that we actually shot our original trailer at this sort of art school, and we were going to get a bunch of the students there to play test the game for us. And then COVID hit, and that was no longer an option. Turning up at a public place and sticking the same HMD on a load of different heads. So I was sort of like doing my own testing, which is a really bad idea as a developer, and the first sort of versions of Warchasm that people ended up playing that I sent out to a few streamers, I'm literally standing there playing it, and I'm like, oh god, this is so dull. It's like no one's going to play this. There's nothing going on here. So I'm sort of like pushing it and adding bits and making it a little bit more difficult, but still, not sure there's much there. The first couple of people that played it, it's too hard. Everyone was saying this is just far too hard. And secondly, by the end of the first level, these guys were all covered in sweat. It's and I'm playing it and just sort of standing there, sort of not even really having to move and then killing everything the moment it appears. I mean, again with the Quest version, I mean, I went back and I changed a lot in the PC version, but again with the Quest version, it's a whole lot easier even the PC version is a lot easier than it was when it first shipped. Don't do your own game testing, I can tell you that. It's absolutely terrible idea.
I'm curious, are the levels generated or are they static? Because you have a checkpoint, and I've died a couple times, and it seems like when I come back to that checkpoint and go through the last part, it's a little different. Am I just making that up, or?
No, for the most part, it will be mostly the same. I think there's a couple of bits that are there that can be random, but for the most part, yeah, it will be pretty much the same experience each time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the order at least in which everything appears will always be the same. It's certainly. Things will appear in different places and what have you, and there's a couple of things that will do different animations and what have you, so that will sort of have it feel different. But for the most part, the levels are pretty much set in stone. I love that quad rocket launcher. It's just so much fun. But yeah, they are. It is absolutely set in. Set in stone. I don't know if you worked it out actually. Looking at this, because obviously you're in this mine car and you're tearing through down these passages. Did it ever click with you that you're not actually moving?
No, not at all.
did that ever become apparent? No, it's actually and I don't know if this is the best way to do something like this, but again, you know that inexperience showing. It's actually everything else is moving, and you're actually just sort of stood there, and it's all the caves and things are being thrown at you as if they were like projectiles or something. It's the caves here that are coming towards you, rather than you moving. But the illusion works. You know, it's.
Yeah, there's too much to shoot and do to think about that. When I was playing today, there was a part where there was a second rail off to the right, and a car of droids came up, kind of surprised me. It was really cool. Yeah. And then I think it's the end of the first world. It was like you come to a stop, and then it's kind of like a shootout almost. It was really neat.
Yeah, it goes a little bit sort of time crisis at the end of each level. You have this. You finally make it to the end of the tracks, and yeah, there'd be a big shootout for each of them, which is for me it just felt nice that you actually come to that stop. You know, that you reach the end of the line, and it's time to stake your claim. You know, it's have the big sort of Western style shootout.
I like that.
Look at that.
We were talking about lunges and stuff, like, because a lot of games make the mistake of not making you have to move, and your legs get tired, and it's like
you're just standing there, your legs get real tired.
I like how you have to lean the cart at points, and that you don't have to use a button. You just lean and put your hand out, and the cart tilts, and you have a lot of great mechanics going on.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's difficult, you know, because you have your limitations in what you can actually produce. You know, if time and money and resources were no question, then you know you'd be making something very different. But you know, you have to be realistic about what you can do. And when you're doing an arcade shooter, you know, it's not like they're in short supply. So you've got to, you know, try and come up with something a bit different. So, and I think we managed to sort of pull that off here in that respect. The fact that, you know, whenever you're seeing these bits on the track, the gaps in the track, you're having to push against the side rails on the minecart to sort of tilt over them, you know, which is a nice touch, and having to shoot the doors and what have you. I did want to. I mean, it might still happen, depending on what happens with the Quest release. If things sort of go well, there are some updates planned that would actually. I want to put some very slow levels in there. You know, it is the plan is do some really slow levels where you've got to think a little bit more about what you're doing as you're going through. So I've started doing a sort of an underwater level, which is looking nice. And the idea being that where here everything is going so fast, you don't really have time to think. The way the underwater level's being designed is like here where you've got where the door just has this one sort of bit in the middle that you need to hit. The underwater section you're moving a lot slower, but the doors have sort of like three of these that you're going to need to hit, and sometimes you'll need to hit them in a particular order. And then there's just we're trying to sort of like develop little puzzles that can be solved with a gun. That's the thing.
Nice.
So Yeah, and it would be nice to have something that changes the pacing of the game, because at the moment it just goes faster and faster. You know, the first two stages are fairly tame, and then it gets a little bit faster for the third, and then a fair bit faster for the fourth, and then the last one's sort of psychotically fast. It's that will have you sweating, that last one. On that note, not talking about my game, but talking about the whole fitness thing. I've been doing a few things. Obviously, play a bit of Beat Saber because it's fun. Doing a bit of O Shape, but something I did for the first time a couple of days ago was you know, the Climb and the Climb 2. You know those games. I was doing one of them, and when you do the Climb, you can pick pro or casual, and and the difference I noticed, I think, is on pro you have the whole stamina thing on your wrist, so you can only hold things for so long. Well, instead of doing that, what I did was I played casual, where you don't have this stamina thing, but you know those sort of wrist and leg weights that you can get, you know, just like small things that weigh like a kilo. Stuck one of them on each wrist, and then played on casual. So I was still having to stop, because after a few minutes of sort of reaching around like this with these weights on, yeah, exactly. You're really aching, so you've got your hands down, and you're just like, you know, letting recover a little bit. And it was a really great way to play. I recommend trying it if you play the Climb. Stick some wrist weights on, put it on casual, and then suddenly it's down to your own stamina. And it was quite the workout, actually. It's
Wow.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, worth trying, definitely. It's I'd recommend it. It's I mean, I'm terrible. I'm one of these guys that's terrible with exercise. So VR is most of the exercise that I get. So I try and do a bit of Thrill of the Fight, or a bit of Creed, or a bit of O Shape, and a bit of the Climb, because I just can't. I can't get down the gym, you know. I just find it so boring. It's whereas going and climbing a mountain or what have you, or playing a bit of Beat Saber or fighting, so you know, doing a bit of boxing is absolutely fantastic. It's I mean, it's one of the great things of VR. It's hopefully dispel that myth that all gamers are fat men sat in chairs. You know, it's like no, we're the active bunch now. We're the we're the ones that are doing it. You know, I mean, it is great for that.
I was just gonna say, hey, Zed, you're in the audience. Any questions or comments or anything?
I don't know if you specified, but is this the Quest build or the PC that we're seeing on the video?
This is this is running on the Oculus Quest 2. Okay. So yeah, this is the Quest version. The plan is, to be honest, I mean, as PJ was saying, this does seem to, you know, it looks a fair bit better than the PC version. So now that this is done, the idea is that I'm going to take this version and stick this version on Steam. I'm going to tweak a few things on it, put the glows, you know, the post effects, all the lasers and what have you have got more of a glow to them. You know, put that back, the bits that I just couldn't get running on Quest. But essentially, the two versions are going to be tied together. Because as a solo dev, you just can't have two completely different versions of your game. It's like, I'll just do everything twice, you know, that's ridiculous. So A, for that, but B, because I personally believe I'll say this, to be completely honest, there are 5 different planets that you play on here, and all but one of them look better on the Quest. There's a ruins level, which is sort of like the 3rd planet. I have to admit that it does look, that level did look better on the PC. But you know, when it's 4-to-1, you know, you've got to go with the numbers, you know. So the idea is that we're going to bring the two of them more in line with each other. The PC will have like more post effects and glows and particle effects and stuff like that, and the explosions will all be translucent rather than here they're masked, so they sort of disappear strangely. So little tweaks like that, but for the most part, this is now going to be the PC version as well. It's just for my own sanity more than anything, so that I can be working on one version of the game and not two.
So going back to the doors, I won't say pro tip, I'm not a pro, but shoot those things open as soon as possible, because I don't know who built these railways on these planets. I don't know if you have any lore, but Whoever puts a freaking beam right outside of a door, so you open the door and you got a duck, is an asshole.
Yeah, no. That's
I don't
it.
even know who
It's,
that is.
yeah. You that's it. You do need to get in there quick with these things. I mean, that's the thing as a game designer, isn't it? It's like your job is to kill someone, essentially, isn't it? That's what you're doing. You know, games are challenging, and generally, when you fail at a game, you die. That's the penalty. You know, if it turns out you're not good enough to do this bit, you die. So as a game designer, you literally spend your days thinking, well, how can how can I kill someone? Yeah, you know what's gonna? Okay, they're in a cart. They come up to a door. Let's stick a great big piece of wood behind it, and that should do it. So yeah, it's
Movies and stories, you got to
to
put them in. You got to ruin their day. You got to put them in carbonite. You got to put them in bad situations.
I never thought of it like that. And that's really
worst,
creepy when you say it that way.
and the worse you can make their day as well, the better the story you're telling. So it's like, how twisted is that?
Open said it in The Hobbit. It's like days that are good to have and things that are good to do are soon written about, but the grueling stuff is the stuff that you really need to stretch it out.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the ones we write stories about, isn't it? I say my favorite book actually is it's by a writer called Don Winslow, who did he wrote the book Savages, which then became a film a few years back. But he wrote this book called The Death and Life of Bobby Z, and it's about this guy who starts out as a complete loser, and his luck just gets worse and worse from there. It's and it's absolutely fantastic. It's that thing you say of like, you have this character and you want to ruin their day. His day is properly ruined. And it's my favorite book. It's absolutely fantastic. If you can, I don't know if it's in print anymore, but if you can pick it up, the Death and Life of Bobby Z by Don Winslow, it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, nice. and it's exactly what you're saying. That whole like, okay, let's take a character and ruin their day, and he does it gloriously. It's fantastic. So yeah.
Well,
so how long have you guys been doing the?
Sorry. The underwater stuff is my favorite, so I really want to see that level.
Yeah, it's coming out. Well, I say it's coming. I mean, along with all the mistakes that I made with the PC version, as it were, the biggest one I have to say is I did absolutely no marketing with it whatsoever, and to be honest, like talking numbers, it's been an abject failure in terms of sort of making your money back. It's been absolutely appalling. So I'm kind of hoping that the Quest version is going to be a second bite at that cherry, because it's not, it's not like it's some terrible sort of like shovelware game or something. And especially the Quest version is so polished now and runs so well. And that's all on me. It really is. It sort of started well, the marketing thing at the beginning of the process, where things were a bit more relaxed. I mean, one of the things I've got going on is all of the weapons in the game are named after synths, different synthesizers, just geeking out there. But I actually contacted each of the different companies and sort of got their blessing, and they were giving me sort of like freebies and bits of software and stuff, and
nice.
And what have you, and doing interviews, and they're talking about the game and its music and that. And that was probably the first 6 months. I'm on Twitter and I'm talking to different content creators and streamers and what have you, and the process is going well. When we got into sort of like the second half of it, the last 6 months, you suddenly realize, I've given myself this deadline of a year. I see how much work there is in front of me. And got it done, but the marketing just fell by the wayside, and I was in this very naive sort of Kevin Costner Field of Dreams mentality. It's like, no, if you build it, they will come. It's like, but it's just, it didn't pan out that way. Apparently, I'm not Kevin Costner, so it was made some terrible mistakes there. But yeah, it's you know, that this, I'm hoping this Quest release will be, like I said, another bite at the cherry. I think the game actually suits the Quest platform a bit more as well. You know, it's yeah, you're not competing with the Half-Life Alexes and the Serena Sacrifices of the world. It's I think it can hold its own a little more in that environment and on that platform. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some absolutely stunning titles on the Quest now. Things like Red Matter, just, you know, that game looks so great. Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, you know, the Vader series, ILM XLab are really like knocking it out of the park at the moment. But at the same time, you know, there are these limitations. So, you know, and limitations tend to level the playing field a little bit for people. You know, I mean, this is one of the things that I really like about VR is it doesn't matter that Sony are turning around and saying, well, you know, we have these characters in our games that are like 2 million polys and where they've got like subsurface scattering on the skin shaders and they've got dynamic hair and all of that. It's like, that's all very well and good, but none of that's going to work in VR because you're suddenly rendering everything twice. You know, you've lost half your power. So all those wonderful, you know, the new technologies you've been developing over the last few years, you know, suddenly we're back to the early 2000s and it's all blob shadows on the floor and sort of hand painted lighting and stuff like that. It's and yeah, those sorts of limitations do level the playing field a little bit. So yeah, you know, and I think so, a lot of indie devs have been able to really shine in this arena because of that. Yeah, you know, the differences. I mean, you know, there are titles, obviously the Half-Life Alexes and that are just incredible, but I think these limitations have given indie developers a chance to compete a little bit because, like I said, it doesn't matter that these big studios can potentially do all these things. They can't because you know, your PC or your PlayStation or what have you just isn't going to run it. So
yeah, and you have to go back to what's good about gaming is gameplay and mechanics and all that, not just all the bells and whistles.
That's it. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, I like the eye candy as much as anyone. I would love for all these VR titles to look absolutely incredible, but at the same time, you know, you can play some very simple looking games that are just so much fun. I mean, probably one of the games me and my friends play the most. And yeah, no, VR has just been fantastic in that respect, like since this pandemic hit. But we play Rec Room. Yeah, you know, and it's been crazy to see as well, actually. Oh yeah, that's it. And yeah, you know, playing paintball either as a team or in two teams because there's quite a lot of us now. And I mean, when I sort of started my journey into VR, the only person I knew that had VR was a friend of mine had the PlayStation VR, and he showed me that. And I'll tell you what he showed me, actually. I think it's London Siege. Is it that? Or London Heist. Yeah, you know that PlayStation VR game where, well, you start it, and where you start, you're tied to a chair, and this guy is thinking about whether to torture you or not. So this is my first VR experience. And I'm sat there, and like, seriously, I'm actually thinking, I'm not sure I like this. You know, this is actually a bit much. You know, I'm standing here in this 3D world. You know, and this guy's sort of standing there with this blowtorch, I think it was. And I was actually thinking for, you know, just for a moment, as I'm really not sure I'm comfortable with this. But yeah, played the game for a few minutes because there was a bunch of us, we're all taking turns. I took the headset off and I just thought, that is it. This is the future, you know, this is, I need to be doing this. This is what I need to be doing. And and with that, my partner had wanted to she wasn't fond of her job. She was thinking of learning to code, something like that, and because of that I looked at Unreal Engine, discovered it had this visual scripting language, and I'd been looking at that for the last couple of weeks, and yeah, that all just come together, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to Unreal Engine. I'm going to make a virtual reality game. But yeah, but getting back on track with that, you know, this guy was the only guy that I knew with any kind of VR. I then got an HTC Vive, and a few of my friends tried that, and one of them bought a Vive, and then another one bought a Vive. And then the Quest came out, and a couple of people bought Quest. I bought Quest, and the Quest 2 come out, and more people are buying them, and then we're taking our old Quests and lending them to people. And what started as my one mate with PSVR, this is like 3 years ago, there's now, like 15 people. No, let's say 10 to be fair. It's probably a bit more than that, but 10 people, and not 10 people that I know online in a VR forum. These are like probably my 10 closest friends in the world, and every
Nice.
one of us now owns VR. So
I'm jealous of that.
I mean, you're always hearing people say, "Well, no one buys VR. You're playing by yourself. VR's dead." All of this. It's like not from where I'm standing. It's like I almost don't know anyone that doesn't have a VR headset now. Even my dad has a VR headset. I bought him one just before Christmas. He was we have this test and trace thing in the UK that sends you messages if you've been in the proximity of someone with COVID, and you then have to stay indoors for 2 weeks, sort of thing. So he got that message. So I ordered him a Quest 2 and gifted him a load of games from the Quest store, and we've just been we play pretty much every day now, me and Dad.
That's awesome.
And then once a week, me and my sort of 10 friends will get together. And there's something absolutely fantastic about being stood in something like Rec Room with like 10 of your friends, being like, let's go play some paintball. Let's go and do some laser tag. It's
The most we've
absolutely
had is like
phenomenal.
5.
And especially like, yeah, well, no, I mean, I'll give you my, I'll give you my gamer tag, and we're come join us, because it's always hilarious. It's absolutely
I
fantastic.
don't want to intrude, but
We had this one day, my proudest moment, I will say. A whole bunch of us sort of spawned into Rec Room together and walked into the lobby, and this kid comes up to us, and you could tell from his voice he's quite young, and we're standing there, literally like 10 of us, and this kid comes up and goes, "Are you the Avengers?" It's just like, yeah, you know what? We are. Yeah, we're the Avengers. This is how we look. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we're the Avengers.
we are now.
That's yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think we're the Avengers? Well, then, yeah, then let's just run with that. Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time. Did you want to talk about your other game, or do you want to talk about a couple other things about Warchasm, or?
No, I think I think I'm okay. I mean, this thing over here, if we have a look at that, this is this is one of the games that never happened. This is this sort of Victorian thing, called The Heart of the Machine, and again, it was being very naive and aiming just a bit too high, I wanted to do this whole sort of like puzzle thing, but there were so many interactions, there was so much stuff you could pick up, and there's all these machines that are puzzles that you have to sort of interact with, and yeah, it just became apparent that it was going to be that it was going to be too much, sort of thing. But it's interesting to look back on, sort of see how it pans out. The one thing I do love from this actually is the gun. We'll see that coming up here in a sec, I think.
Yeah, and while we're waiting for the gun,
just
like
here.
I told you in chat, like that trailer is pretty epic. If it's for an unfinished game that is a couple years old. Like,
This is literally a prototype. It's literally a prototype. But the thing I love about that gun, what I wanted to do was where normally, like in Warchasm, for instance, you've got your ray gun and your blaster and your rocket launcher. The gun that I designed for this game is sort of 3 guns in one, and so you see it. You see it actually sort of transforming between its 3 versions, of like a pistol, a minigun, and this weird sort of box, sort of cone-shaped things that you use for picking up these spheres. Yeah.
that looks
So
cool.
you see there the transformation. Yeah, look at that. But yeah, this is literally just a prototype. But again, it's the mistakes that you make, because this was when you build a prototype, you should be using the most simple of shapes, and these sort of like polygonal primitives and things. But I've just sort of jumped in and be like, no, I want this door that's got all these glowing lights on it, and these bits that sort of like come pulling down the sides, and I want a gun that transforms into 3 different guns, and I want mechanical spiders and all of that. So it's not how you build a prototype, to be honest. But yeah, it's I mean, this is the one. Me and my partner were looking at this actually because I just wanted to sort of show you guys the footage, and we are kind of tempted to go back to it, you know, and maybe maybe have a look at it, because there is a fair amount of it done. So it would be interesting to sort of go back to it and explore it a little bit more. But at the same time, you know, you've got to find the business model that works for you. And a game like this, I can see it. You know, this is probably going to be 2 to 3 years of development to get a final, finished, polished product together. And in such a volatile industry as game development, it's just I don't know if it's a risk that as a solo dev you can sort of take, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, maybe once you've got a successful title behind you, you can start taking those risks. I mean, I've heard people say, you know, step 1 is to survive in this industry, and then step 2 is to thrive. So yeah, it's we'll have to we'll have to see. It was we were kind of amazed at how much work had been done on it. Really, frankly, it was oh my god, there's so much there. But yeah, it's a difficult choice. It's you know, because there's a few other prototypes. There's the whole sort of like RPG thing with all the cathedrals built and everything, and in that one you're like casting spells and having people, you know, pulled into portals and stuff like that. You know, again, how not to build a prototype. And there's a few other things that we've been working on as well. So I mean, next step is see what happens with the Oculus Quest release of Warchasm, see how that does. Hopefully that will put us in a better position to take risks, and and hopefully one of these prototypes will become our next game. So yeah, that's the plan.
Well, I wish you well, man, because Warchasm, like, I play a lot of games because I play a game every week for whoever we're talking to, basically. But
yeah,
it's a great game for like when I've had 15, 20 minutes before supper, or when I get home from work and nothing's happening. I'm like, I've wanted to jump back into the game, which it's not super rare because I like a lot of games, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, especially being able to be active and just the mechanics, like the shooting. Like I've been trying to like one shot everything, you know, instead of wasting bullets because you have a bullet count.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying the game.
Yeah, no, that's. Well, I mean, that's. I'm glad you like it, and it's very, very, very kind of you to say so. It's it's. I mean, I'm very proud of it. You know, you got to love your babies, haven't you? So very proud of it, and just hope we can. I mean, everyone that's played it seems to like it, and everyone that's reviewed it has reviewed it well. We're just not getting the numbers, you know. So I just hope that now with the Oculus release, we're putting some cash into marketing and what have you, and hopefully we can draw some attention to it. And if so, because really you just want to be making your next game, you know, you want to get your first one out the door and then be in a position to say, yeah, this is going to work. I can now make another game because it's absolutely fantastic, you know. And over the years, I've you know, I've worn a lot of different hats. I've worked as a musician, I've worked as a 3D modeler, I've worked as a web designer, and with all of these things, finally doing the game development thing, I found something where I can model something and I can texture something and I can animate it and then I can bring it into the game and I can do some development on that and I can create the sounds that go with it and I can write some music and stick that behind it. And you know, suddenly you know, being in a position where your entire skill set can come together and sort of like work towards one thing is a stunningly rewarding place to be, you know. And I just genuinely hope that we can get a bit of love for Warchasm over there and move on to the next one, go through the process again. Would be fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Anything, Zed or Wookie, before we sign off? Or
It was.
Everything looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at solo devs and the time that you guys have to the time you make to put into these things. It's great.
It's a labor of love. The only thing I will say about doing everything yourself, the one reprieve that you do get is you will have days where you think, I can't be painting any more textures. It's like, so you can put that down and you can walk away and you can be like, okay, I'm going to work on a bit of music for the game. And that becomes, even though you're still working, it becomes a break from the other thing that you're doing. And then you might think, okay, I can't think up any more sort of melodies and things. So you can go away and you can like start putting a model together or something, or you can start working on some sort of explosion sounds, things like that. So yeah, in its own way, as it's a gift as much as it is a curse. It's being able to walk away from one thing and apply yourself for a little bit to something else, but still be productive, working towards that same goal. That's one thing that I have to say is a benefit to doing the solo dev thing is you can switch it out, and that helps you keep things fresh. That's
Sure.
That's a great thing about doing lots of different creative things. Is you swap it out.
So with the quest build, my last question, I guess, with the quest build, are you shooting for App Lab or Quest Store? Like, what's your plan? Or
haven't actually applied to the Quest Store at all. I figured it's just easier to just get it on App Lab first because, just to get it out there. It's a fairly solid build now. I mean, there's always going to be something will come up. Some player will find something that you never thought to check. But it's a pretty solid build, so I'm happy to sort of get it on there just to get the ball rolling and start getting some streamers playing it. And then maybe if we start getting a fair few sales, maybe Oculus will pay attention to it, and B, there's nothing to stop us sort of submitting it to the to the main store while it's on App Lab. There's a few more things that you have to do. Things need to be a little bit tighter in terms of the sort of human interface. It's like when you take the headset off, the game should pause and stuff like that. And just lots of, there's a lot longer sort of checklist of things that you need to get right with a full Oculus Store sort of submission. So for now, I figured, let's get it on App Lab, get that ball rolling, get it on SideQuest and start doing some advertising there. And then once it's on there, people know about it, get some streamers playing it, and then I can think about making a proper sort of submission to the main store and see, fingers crossed, maybe we'll get lucky. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to be sort of pushing it on SideQuest to begin with. That's I mean, the only reservations I have about the App Lab thing is it's not such a big deal if you are on SideQuest, which a lot of people are, and you see a game that you like and you click on it, it will take you through and you'll have this one sort of message come up saying, this is an App Lab game, it's not gone through our same sort of testing. If, however, someone is just browsing on their phone or if someone's looking for your game in particular, I don't know if I mean, you must have seen this. Like you look at the Oculus app on your phone, and let's say you type in Warchasm, it has to be an exact match, otherwise it's not going to come up at all. And then even though you've typed in that exact match, the one thing I would expect is if someone types in literally exactly Warchasm, I would expect Warchasm to come up first. But the thing that I've noticed, sort of, testing the waters, looking for various different games, is Oculus then show you a whole bunch of their main store games that aren't
sponsored crap,
that are nothing to do with the name of the game that you've typed in, and then your game will be at the bottom of that list, or whatever indie game or whatever App Lab game will be at the bottom of that list with no icon, saying it's App Lab, so be careful, as it were. And then you press on that, and it will then take you through to the store page, and then bring up another warning. Which I think for a lot of people is going to be a little bit off-putting. Maybe not. For guys like us, we're just going to go and be like, warnings, whatever. It's like just give me the game, give me the goods. But I think that's going to put a fair amount of potential consumers off, sort of just seeing 2 warnings in a row. I mean, what is it? A cigarette packet? How many warnings does it need to have on it? So and with that, I mean, I understand it being there, but you know, I mean, Oculus are taking that 30% and not doing much in exchange for it. So the one thing I would say is at least give us a fighting chance. You know, it's don't make it quite so hard for people to be finding these indies, these indie studios in their games. You know. But yeah, you know, other than that, it's
But for
you know,
side quests,
it is what it is.
I think once you get it on there, I've played a lot of side quest games, and I think from my point of view and how much I like the game, like that's got to hit top 10 quick. If you can get eyes on it, that is, you know, however that works. But
yeah, I certainly hope so. And you know, we've got a marketing budget now. We're gonna look at do you know Touge VR? He does all these sort of mixed reality Beat Saber videos. We've got the tech here to do the video ourselves, and we're gonna give it a go. But I don't fancy our chances. We don't have the space. We don't have the sort of camera lighting and that sort of thing. So I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that these trailers where you're seeing it from the point of view of the player, they actually don't convey at all how much you're moving in this game. You know?
Yep.
It just really doesn't show that you're probably going to have a sweat on at this point. You know, it just doesn't come across because it's that kind of like, you know, like when you're driving, you don't look at you know the bonnet of your car, you look down the end of the road, and looking down the end of the road here, even if you shift, you know, from one side of the car to the other, it doesn't translate well here as to how much you're moving. So it's been a real problem sort of conveying to people, no, this is actually a really active game. So we're maybe looking at seeing if we can get this guy too that does a lot of the sort of mixed reality videos with Hey Falcon and I think Nacy. And maybe seeing if we can not so much get him to do a trailer, because I just don't think the budget that I've got will stretch to that, but see if perhaps he can just get a bit of footage, a bit of mixed reality footage together that we can then take and sort of recut our own trailer to sort of get that going. Because yeah, it is really you know, a game like this, you need to be showing people how active it is, and the whole dodging and ducking and weaving and tilting part of it is such a massive part of the gameplay here. Because without that, it's just it's a fairly generic shooter. Let's be honest. It's it's that physical element of it that differentiates it from so many other games that are out there. So yeah. Maybe we'll sort of get a mixed reality trailer together that will better convey that. Certainly going to be, doing some advertising on SideQuest. We're going for that big banner across the top, and well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right, PJ. I hope we hit that top 10 slot and start getting a few bums on a few seats. You know, get a few get a few players in there.
But you're totally right. The physicality is just great because, like I mentioned, like I've played a lot of games where you just stand there. I love sitting games because I play a lot, so it's nice to sit down and play something. But for standing games, when you're just standing there and it's just like you can just move your arms, like it's neat, it's cool, the games are good, but moving around really makes me feel good about playing something. So
yeah, that's it. And it's what VR was built for, isn't it? You know, if we're all just going to be stood still, let's just be sat on let's be comfortable and sit on a chair and play staring at a screen and not have this thing strapped to my head in the middle of a heat wave. You know, it's let's go back to that. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be physical. You know, you know, if you're going to put people inside of that space, inside of that game, then let them be let them be human about it. Let them be using their hands and picking things up. Strangely though, I've seen a few people that don't I've seen people that play games struggle more than people that don't play games once they get into VR. Because I've seen instances of people that like, no, I play games all the time, and you stick them in VR, and they're like, okay, what button does what? And it's like, well, it's kind of really you just reach out with your hands like you would if you would just being a person, sort of thing. And I think it brings a lot of non-gamers into the VR space. My partner, for instance, isn't a gamer at all. But she's we play lots of VR and she absolutely loves it. It's just that sense of wonder when you go in and the first time you're stood there in a virtual reality environment, and it's just it's just so immersive, and you can't pitch it to people. It really is like that Matrix thing of like, no, you can't be told what it is. You need to see it, because no amount of seeing these things on a flat screen like that gives lets you know what it's actually like. But most people, as I said, so many of my friends have this now. Most people that stick that headset on end up owning one of their very own. It is once you know, and you can't be going back to flat gaming after this. It's just too much, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have more questions, but I don't want to keep you. I know it's 3 a.m. there, so. Just thank you for your time and your game, and I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, I thoroughly enjoy it. Like, I'm gonna play it right after we hang up here.
Excellent. That's absolutely fantastic to hear. Thank you so much for having me on. It's absolutely amazing. Like I said at the start, if someone had told me that this was in your future, I would have thought they were crazy. But here we are, standing in a virtual world, talking about virtual worlds. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much. And I've been really enjoying your guys' podcast. Actually, I think I listened to. I think I listened to you did one with the guy from Resolution Games, and you did one with the Anna from Pixel Ripped, and Rosie Summers. So I've been listening to a few, and it's just great hearing hearing these other devs talk about their experiences, and you guys really sort of get to the heart of their experience, and it's absolutely fantastic to listen to. So
I suppose.
Well done on that front.
For single devs, because we talk to a lot of them, it's kind of like a similar story a lot of the times. And the funny thing to me is a couple of them say, we haven't talked to anyone but you guys for a long time. But just hearing similar struggles and day-to-day routines, I'm sure it has to be good for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to know that you're not alone. That it's not like, why did I make this decision? Why am I doing this? And it's good to know that it is a sort of shared struggle. That there are people, that everyone's been through it, and everyone's faced the same things, and people have gotten through it, and people have found success at it and made it their careers, and it's just great to see those things, and especially with some of these guys like the Resolution Games team, they are just killing it at the moment.
Yes.
With the release of Demio, I have bought so many copies of Demio. You on the Oculus app, you can look at your sort of like gift list, look at the sort of gifting you've done. It's a whole bunch of games, and almost every other one is a copy of Demio that I've sent to someone, like, install this, let's go and play. I mean, they absolutely nailed the social aspect with that one. They got that exactly right. It's they're absolutely slaying it at the moment. So well done to those guys. That's brilliant experience.
I agree. Well, thanks, man. I just keep in touch, and if we can do anything to help, or if you ever need to come back and talk more, like I think I got through half my questions. So,
well, I mean, if you have any more, I'm happy to answer them, or I can kind of come back another time. It's all. It makes no difference to me. It's like I said, I had the largest cup of coffee you have ever seen in your life before we started this conversation, which is probably why I've been a bit blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So sorry about that, but
right.
I had to sort of take steps to not be falling asleep with the headset on. It's yeah. Cool. Okay, well, I mean, I'd absolutely love to come back at some point, talk about how the sort of the quest release has gone, and certainly if we do start the when I say we, by the way, I'm literally talking about me and my girlfriend. So, but yeah, if she lets me build another game, then then I'll certainly come back and chat with you guys about that.
Awesome. I appreciate it. It's been a real joy, and I'll keep sending you my thoughts on the game and whatever else we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if I mean, I'll send you a couple more keys or whatever over because I know you bought it. Amazing. So that was you. So yeah, it's but I'll send you I'll send you a few keys over. So if you've got any friends that want to play it or what have you,
Yeah, we
and
tend to
it's,
give keys out to the audience at certain times too, so that helps.
yeah. Okay, cool, excellent. Hang on, guys. I think. Oh, my girlfriend's talking to the cat. I think. Hey. Right, right. Yeah, that's my partner. Like, hey, another game. so yeah, we will see. We will see. yeah, very aptly timed. I thought she was asleep, so I thought I'd get away with saying that. But yeah, no, brilliant. Right, nice one, guys. So yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, we'll have some success with this. I'm feeling pretty confident, and yeah, there will be another game. Don't listen to her. So yeah,
We won't tell her.
so yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, no, absolutely. What happens in VR stays in VR, right?
That's right.
So, yeah. Excellent. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to bug out. Like I said, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been absolutely fantastic chatting with you guys. Yeah, sorry if I was rabbiting a bit. We're sort of like high on caffeine, but yeah, it's yeah, and I'd absolutely love to come back at some point in the future and let you know how things have been going and see how things have been going with you guys.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Excellent. Okay, then I will.
Have a good one.
Yeah, I'm going to bust a groove. Yeah, nice one, guys. Thanks a lot. Good night.
See ya.
See ya.
Well, everyone, that was Dave the Dev talking about his game Warchasm and other things. Check the show notes if you're listening to the audio of this, and the video if you're watching. I'll try to get them in there too, links for all this stuff. It's a very active game, very well built. I am really shocked between the versions, like we talked about. It works extremely well in the Quest. Also, if you're listening to the audio version, I just want to thank Spatial Ape. At least try to check the video out, because the assets they brought in for him are amazing. We have this huge coal car looking thing in here, a couple other enemies, so it's really neat to see in here. If you have VR and ever want to join us, just check us out on Twitter and we'll get you in here. It's a good time. But for episode 78, I am PJ. I think Wookie's here. Yeah, Wookie's having an issue, but he's here. He says goodbye. Thanks everyone for hanging out and listening. This was our VR verdict.